on camera. You're fine.
No, I literally can't. Hey-o! Hey, welcome to the hashtag handle it hot minute.
It's hot
My
30 minutes
camera
now.
is not cooperating with me. Tony's supposed to be our tech guy.
My VCR is still flashing 12.
He's the youngest. But we got a great show today, guys. We're gonna dive in on carousels, and right now, I even put out a post out today how important it is. We're joined by the one and only Andrew Brett Green, one of my close friends and buddies that I came up in the industry with. Learned a lot from him. Did a lot with him at Circle, and we've always kind of been on the same page mindset wise. So a lot of his role over there was building out the carousels team. We both basically, we pretty much wear every hat, but build out account management, carousels, all of it. But towards the end, that was his real dive in and what he really put his mind to. And I loved, sitting in his office or him sitting in my office and us talking about those things. So Andy, why don't you give us a little background, talk about yourself here a little bit, and we'll get rolling.
Sure. Appreciate you guys having me on. I've been in logistics longer than I'd like to admit, but about 18 years, from the truck side all the way to, the brokerage side, and, in various roles. But as a dispatcher, just finding back calls, and then just kind of, over the years, just kind of, grew. And so now, about a year and a half ago, about a little over a year, started Great American Logistics. So we're excited where we're at, given the economic conditions, but really looking forward to the coming months, weeks, years ahead, and truly building something special. We feel that we're on a trajectory that is going to take us there. And so just happy to be here to share a little bit of insight and a little bit of my background.
Man, that's awesome. TJ, keep working on your tech or whatever you're doing over there with the camera.
I'm on it. But can you hear me well though?
Absolutely fine.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's good. But yeah, so let's get the conversation rolling. But one big thing, and I think Andy can attest to this, is and I've had a lot of conversations here, with a lot of companies here on my job search too, and it's something I want to get a part of again. And me and him went down to Cincinnati a month or so ago together. Two separate people, two separate companies, technically competitors, going down to visit the same person. I helped introduce them, because doing things the right way and helping each other out is key. And when we were successful, we were sitting in the room bouncing ideas off each other, right? Coming up with things, being competitive, but not in a negative sense, but getting excited about things. And we went through a journey there that was pretty fun. Getting the new office, everything together, and putting it all, failing, right? Seeing what worked, what didn't. Him calling me, at 6:30, going, damn it, and me kind of being the calm voice, and then me calling him all pissed off, and him being the calm voice. And there's a lot to be said to it. When we talk about doing things the right way, it doesn't mean that if you're not doing it the right way now, you can't continue to learn, right? And bounce ideas. And that's what we did. We didn't give up. We didn't get down on each other. We said, hey, tomorrow we're going to come in, we're going to revamp that, or we're going to change that up, or hey, Andy, can I borrow that? Or hey, TJ, that's a good idea, man, can I borrow that? So I'd like to start off, right off the bat. Let's jump right into the main topic that we talked about the other day. And I think me and you kind of talked on the phone too about it, Andy, but the initial I guess strategy of having multiple reps post the same load to the same board at the same time.
Oh boy.
And especially from a standpoint of even as a carousels manager or overseeing a division like that, where do you see the inefficiencies on that, the time and the cost, that you don't necessarily see. Andy, what's your take on that? You had a good take on it last time we were talking.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a root cause to that, but one of the main reasons is there's no, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of ourselves here, but it's incredibly inefficient, because you have, especially in today's climate, you probably don't have to post it that many times, just given capacity, but you have dispatchers that they may not like the rate that they get from carousels rep A, So they'll call back and call another carrier sales rep and kind of pit the two against each other and see who's going to pay them a little bit more. And so, and then, it just creates a wild, wild west culture. And so, there's no carrier relationships, and we can dive into that more, but it's not, it's inefficient because, again, like I said, you have reps stepping on reps' toes. You have carriers that are pitting reps against each other. Gaming the system. It's taking up valuable resources when really one post would do. And having the other 10 reps call out on that shipment. Call the carriers that they have relationships with, call the hidden capacity. We can dive more into that later as well. But, it's costly all across the organization.
Yeah.
You guys have taught me a lot, just like sitting on the side watching stuff like that. I mean, maybe not directly you, Andy, but definitely TJ when we talk, and it's wild that the angles that you think about things from and back and forth and figuring stuff out, and it's actually been pretty cool to watch since I'm not on that side. I tried it for like 10 minutes and I was terrible, and respect to you that do the hustle out there in sales, but man, that's probably not my cup of tea. But man, it's been fun to watch people who are trying and learning. Because I'll tell you what, I wasn't a good truck driver when I started. I had to learn and grow and humble myself enough to continue to learn and want to keep learning. And the same way when I became a leader of people, I had to learn and I had to fail and I had to be a bad leader before I could learn to be a good leader. Now, I'm still the jury's out on that part still, but that willingness to learn and help and talk to other people and be positive, and that positive mindset. I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, when you buy a blue sedan, all you see is a blue sedan everywhere you go, even though you've never paid any attention to them before. But, if you see positivity in your mind, all you're going to see is opportunity instead of that. When you focus on negativity, all you're going to see is challenges and obstacles. So I've been working on trying to be more positive in my own personal life and then as a leader as well. So
sure,
it's been fun watching you guys and learning from just the conversations that we've had going around about like solving problems and stuff like that, seeing you guys, how you attack a problem that I never even thought was an issue. It's been cool. So keep it up. What's next, TJ?
Yeah, I think first off, hey, we got Scott Scott the wannabe in the audience here. We're gonna continue to butcher that just because we have to.
What was the next thing on the list? Did you have that list?
Can you hear me?
Or I can pull it up.
Can you hear me though?
Where I'm at here.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, so we got Scott in the audience. We got Sante. We got to give some shout outs here, Tony. We got Jimmy, Anthony Hoover's in the house. And there's going to be some questions here too.
So what does it take to
broker B says 750?
Do you see multiple loads go on the same load board by two different guys, the same place? I always wondered where they get those metrics, because I don't see tender rejection rates. I hear all these statistics and data, and as a shipper, no one's ever asked me how many loads have been given back. And I'm like, where do they come up with all this data and stuff? So from your point of view,
when you say multiple loads posted, are you saying from the same company or by different companies?
Sure, either or. I know it happens. Like a shipper will send a load out there and you'll see it, like I'm 95 miles from Chicago, but I'll see the load posted in Chicago and know exactly what it is. And it'll be going to a city to city. I'll see exactly the details. I've played around with that stuff and had friends that are brokerages look into it, and they'll tell me, hey, your load's out here.
Yeah. I think, reps are trying to have a truck in hand to go back to the client. Hey, we've got a truck 40 miles out. Here's our rate. Especially ad hocs or last minute type shipments. I think TJ in his initial question was more referring to a load in hand if a brokerage or had a load in hand posted by multiple reps within the same organization.
Yeah. I mean, have you experienced that? Have you been?
I've experienced both of them. Yes.
What do you think? I mean, I know it hurts everybody because it's pulsed and it's duplicate extra information and it really just plugs everything up. But what's the incentive to do that? Is it one salesperson over another?
Well, the incentive, I mean, most carrier sales reps are based, so they're trying to, especially in a market like today when there's limited opportunities, they're trying to get, they're trying to make their income, make their quota, whatever it may be. And so they're just throwing it out there rather than, having a true CRM, to scale any brokerage, going to get off topic here and get on my soapbox, but to scale any brokerage logistics company, you've got to have a CRM for prospects, but most importantly, or even as important, is a CRM to manage your carrier relationships, to capture that capacity. And, brokerages where they don't have that, I'm not saying it's entirely due to that, but they're just having reps out there fishing. And when you throw up a load on DAT or Truck Stop or a load board, and most of the carriers you're going to get are all newer MCs that maybe not have a customer base, that are just hauling all brokerage freight like their head hauls. They don't have customer freight to sustain them, and so when you throw a load out like that, you're going to get probably not the best carriers, or if you don't have relationships to turn to, for instance, like today, we had a shipment in Ohio. It was just a 66-mile run. I had a carrier that, I've known for years. I texted him, said, "Hey, you got a truck?" He said, "Yeah, absolutely. Here's my rate," and took it back to the customer. I didn't even have to go to the load board. And that's what those CRMs will help with, is just managing your carrier relationships, so that way you don't even have to go out to the load board or post it 10 times.
Yeah, I think. Oh, hang on. Can you hear me?
I can.
You can't?
I can.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, I think that's a great point. And I think, you look at, there, it's hard to see. And I think, when people want to sit down, they in this industry, there's a lot of visible money, right? There's a lot of visible costs, visible, losses and gains. But, when it comes down to that actual efficiency and that actual development as a company, especially getting yourself, prepared for times like these, there's so many costs that are hidden that you don't see, that aren't out there in front, right? And again, like what Andy said, the difference between having a carrier that you could call and put on it, compared to going DAT. Listen, number one, you're less likely to be one out there complaining about double brokering. Number two, your service stays where it is, which brings you more freight in the long run, right? Where's your investment there? Number three, you've got better utilization of the resources that, a lot of brokerages say, all right, well, everybody has these resources. Everybody has this, Truck Stop and Selectus and DAT. We're going to have all those out there. And then you're only utilizing one, right? So there's costs that aren't utilized, right? You've got 6 reps that could be, 4 or 5 of those could be focusing 100% on another avenue, right? You got Andy Green running the show, say, or me or Tony, say one of us is in charge, we're running the show. And instead of us helping or being able to be utilized somewhere else, we're having to babysit and make sure, just like what they said here, like Jimmy, broker A has it posted 800, broker B has it at 750, broker C has it at 625, because they want the bigger cut. And you got to manage that.
Yeah, then you have some leapfrogging each other. Posting it. One's posting it for hire because they want the call to get the book and to get the commission, and it creates a bad culture.
Mm-hmm. And the only way to really alleviate that is for management or somebody in leadership to sit there and actually manage the board. And
I was going to say, who manages that? How do you stop that within one? I mean, especially like an agency or multiple office brokerage. How do you do
Well,
that?
I don't think, well, I think in this case, you know, if you're talking about, you know, multiple reps with posting the same load on the same board, a lot of times you're going to see that more in the Chicago style with a group of carousels reps in the same office. You're not going to see it as much across you know, that's, you know, you talk to some agents. I mean, that's a benefit sometimes they have, right? And that's a benefit of the cradle to grave model. And Andy can attest to that. I mean, when we first started off, I mean, our customers loved us. And not that they didn't love us after that, but I mean, like the ones we had too. I mean, because it was us doing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got
Right.
one
I mean,
point.
we were. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's one point of contact, you know, and that's why you know, the cradle to grave model is so great, but it's not scalable.
It's not scalable. Mm-hmm. And we never married ourselves to one model. And I've talked to many people about this. Is, you know, everybody's like, oh, cradle to grave or Chicago style or pods. You know, hey, it didn't matter if it was a certain account. We built it how we needed to, right? Little tiny Belcher, right? The dude had his account that he was running cradle to grave, and he went over, we set him off the side and let him do his thing, right? Because that account needed it, right? A lot of the expedite team, same thing. You look at hell, you know, we had pods built around some, and then everybody knows, and there's no secret around it. But you know, when you bring Walmart on, it's its own separate entity. You know, it's not even just a pod, but it may even have a different commission structure, pay structure, because you may be taking losses to start off with it. So there's all these different ways to do it. But when you're in the same office with that many people doing the same thing, it can take away from the bandwidth that a leader has, and then from everybody else. And then now we want to talk KPIs, right? Now we want to talk who's hitting their numbers. Well, when you spend half the day with 7 other people trying to cover the same load because you're fighting against each other, how are you going to hit those KPIs? How are you going to hit those numbers you're supposed to hit?
Nobody's.
And if you do, are they valid? Are they actually legit? Is it actually tracking your actual production? You know, and your cost as an overhead as an employee. And that's not fair, not just unfair to the company, you know, obviously because the overhead, but it's unfair to the person that's asked to do it, because now they're put in a situation where it's, hey, you're not producing or you're not hitting your numbers or whatever it is. And you know as well as I do, Andy, we've heard it, you know, it's like, well, I don't have to, I can't, I'm being told to do this or whatever it is. And so I think it starts with conversations at the top and it always trickles down. And that, as long as you can have that, and we had it for a long time, you know, freedom to sit down, evaluate where you're at. It's never too late to do it, but evaluate what your strategies are and what you can do to make those around you more productive, right? It takes that much off your shoulders as a leader, and it creates that much more production as a team. And I think, you know, Andy, I think we saw that as you started to change some things around there. However, you know, it's not like the stress levels went down at all, but you know, that's growing pains. I mean, when you've got a lot of freight and you're trying to manage it.
Also still remains, you know.
Welcome to logistics.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think you also see that, you know, again, those growing pains, right? I mean, it's the fact that, hey, you know, as you grow, you want to grow lean. So are they spending money on middle management, right? Are they spending money on people that can, and then when they do, are they trained properly? Do they know how to do it?
Yeah. You know, you gotta train and train and retrain. And, you know, it's a very dynamic environment, industry that we're in. And, you know, I've never, in my 18 years, I've never seen it so volatile, the volatile shifts that we've seen over the last, you know, few years. We always talk that it's, you know, logistics, transportation markets, they ebb and flow, but, you know, over the last few years, they've really, you know, rapid changes. You know, and so you've got to continually, you know, communicate from the top down, and then provide reoccurring training, because, you know, there's so many new platforms out there with tech and AI now entering logistics space. So you got to stay current. And you know, you talk about the hidden costs. The hidden costs are not training your staff. And everybody's stepping on toes. And then you've got management, higher level management, that's now putting out fires amongst reps internally, rather than focus on growing the you know, the organization.
Yeah, and that just creates that culture that nobody wants. And it could be part of it. But I want to do this. So Andy, touch on and then I'm gonna flip it to Tony then. The ability, and what we talked about last night too. We started real spot bid heavy, and then we got into the carrier source and the importance of it. You know, we talked about the importance of treating, you know, carriers as though you treat customers too, right? And the ability to grow the relationships and build out that committed freight. And then I, I've touched too on the fact that having that, it's a caveat, it's a two-way street there too, because now when I'm talking to potential customers, or I'm talking to, say Tony about a lane, why do people like assets? Because they've got trucks in hand, literally. Right. And so if you've got that capacity created, not just, borrowed or pulled from somewhere else one time, you've got trucks in hand. And so those conversations go different. So Andy, dive in a little bit on that, Andy, and then we're gonna flip to Tony and say, what do you see the value in that too, if you were talking to a broker?
Absolutely. And that's why I'm such a proponent of a CRM for managing your carrier relationships, because you now, you capture, well, first of all, in an industry such as logistics or transportation, there's a lot of turnover. That's just the way it is. But so anytime a carrier sales rep walks out that door, they're taking intellectual knowledge with them, or that relationship that you had with the carrier, that, oh, hey, they have a truck here every week, the wanting to go here. And once, if that employee walks out the door, you now lose that data. Now, having a CRM, you can now harvest that data and funnel it back, reverse sell it back into, provide it to the BDRs, the SDRs, and your account management team to park in front of the shippers like Tony and say, hey, Tony, based on our discussion last week, you're really struggling on a shipment out of, going to Missouri. We have a partner carrier that, is there every third Friday or whatever it may be every week. We can help you out, and putting those solutions in front, and you're going to drive a better service, and you're probably going to get a better, rate, be able to lower your shippers' costs, just by connecting the dots there. But if you don't,
amen.
What's that?
Amen. I've seen that.
Yeah. And you're going to scale your business. You're going to grow your business that way. But, without, those relationships with those carriers too, in a market like we're in, it's easy. You could throw up a shipment on DAT and have, 20 emails within 10 minutes right now, just the way capacity is. But when capacity flips, and now the Tonys of the world that are going to market right now and releasing an RFQ that want you to hold pricing for 12 months, guess what? Market's going to flip pretty soon. And if you don't have relationships established with carriers that, that are pretty strong, you're probably not going to be able to honor your contracted pricing. Now you got to give that tender back to Tony, and tender rejection rate's going to go through the roof, and you're going to be in the hot seat and be called, if they're monitoring rejection rates, and you're just not going to be in a good position. So having those relationships you can turn to not only drives better service, allows you to buy bread better, but it drives, allows you to have more profitability as well.
Well, I'll tell you where I've seen this work, and it just especially on a lane that might be a struggle, or an item that might be a struggle to ship in a certain lane because it's odd sized, or like a NMFC code that's like a 450 or something, something big that sits on a rack or something. I've done that before. You get 5 racks of something that takes up a 53-foot van, but the weight's 2,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Nobody believes you, and they think they can book another load with it and pair stuff up and not tell you about it, and or show up with the floor space and they don't have the floor space. It's happened. I understand your frustration, but when they come to us as a shipper, when a provider comes to us with options or a solution, I can then take that back to sales. Right? Our customer doesn't want to talk to the shipping guy. I don't want to talk to a customer. Trust me. Because to me, they're a pain, right? I love our customers, but they have needs, and I don't like needs. I have drivers. Those guys have needs, and those are the guys I'm trying to take care of. So when we let the sales professionals talk to the customers directly, or inside sales talk to the customers and handle that relationship in a way that is professional and competent, unlike me, I'm going to be making jokes and sharing memes with them. But when they come to me with options, I can take it to sales, and then sales can present that with their relationship with their customer and provide them options that we can do, instead of saying, well, we can't get your shipment this week. Sorry. They can come back and say, hey, I know it's supposed to be in there on Tuesday, but I got a guy that's in there every Thursday, and we can nail this guy down and end up, maybe we just change your delivery date, your routine date of Tuesday to Thursday, and adapt. And you know what? Nine times out of 10, the customer will work with you when you can provide them good intelligent, competent information that's trustworthy.
Every
That's where the
week-
relationship on the other side works too.
Every week, Tony drops a nugget, right? It's why I love this show. You know what I mean? Because you feel confident in the conversations and understand what you can do. Then he drops a nugget about how your ability to carrier source can benefit him and his sales team, right? And he can go and help his customer out that way.
Right.
Guys, you want to look for a way to benefit a customer. You want right here. You're hearing it right here. And those things right there are things that, and I'm telling you guys, sometimes I'm overconfident, and Andy, you know that. But
No comment.
That's huge. I mean, that's something I'll tell you right now, I never thought of. And you got to love it.
Yeah, you don't till you hear it out of Tony's mouth. You don't see that, right? You don't think about that. Hey, our ability to carrier source and backfeed that information to our account management team, who can then take it to our customer. The impact that may have until you hear it, firsthand.
Well, we actually had a situation one time. I knew a customer was in Pennsylvania and I was in Northern Indiana, and somebody came in and it was a supplier, or I don't remember. They popped in and they came in with this ridiculous load bid, and we're like, what's going on? And I reached out and I was like, hey, shipper, how you doing? Your rate's really good. What's going on? And they said, well, we're based out of the town like 8 miles over to the west of that town where that's going, and we're delivering up in Chicago. This is a backhaul for us, and it's almost perfectly in line. And I was like, wow, that's really cool, because we do this load like every week. How many trucks you got in Chicago every week? And he's like, holy smokes. And it worked out. And they were in there the other day and dropped us off a couple of hats because it just paired up and it was easy. And
yeah,
they're trying to get their guys home.
Yeah, if the carrier rep had that relationship with that carrier, and they brought that to you, I mean, that's a huge opportunity for that rep. To probably make a couple $100 off of just being right place, right time, and having that relationship.
I don't even think this was brokerage. It was the actual carrier. They were like in the neighborhood or something, doing something on our industrial park. They just popped in, and because they knew our product, they were hauling windows or something the west, and we're trying to get them east. And I mean, these guys already knew what they were doing. They were already trained. They were hauling windows. We're shipping windows. It was really cool to have them like just fall into our lap and puzzle piece it together.
And that's when you realize, that your thought process, like Andy said, on how it kind of benefits you, right, from a sales standpoint, right, going to a customer with a carrier already, and then you hear that's what people don't understand is how relatable and how much the shipper tends to think the same way. Right. Yep. Because now Tony is saying, okay, because he has this and because he has this carrier, I can go to my sales team, right, at Lippert and tell them, hey, we can now tell our customer that we can move this a certain amount of time per day and that we've got somebody in lane. Now you're helping him. It's a double-edged sword. And I've always talked about, you don't got to be on the asset side to understand that, the drivers that are on the front lines are your best salesmen. And Tony talks about it from the standpoint of how he sends his guys. And I know Lippert preaches it, but from a brokerage standpoint, when those guys want to run for you and you're doing all the back office, you're getting paid on timely and whatnot, and they see, I definitely have experienced it many times on the asset side, but also on the brokerage, in which they call and they're saying, hey, these guys over here are shipping windows. I'm going to swing in there and give them your name and see if you get set up with them. Let's run this freight, right? Because they want to go through you, right? Because they're going to get paid quicker. They're going to get all the benefits of what the relationship they have with you, but they're out selling for you because they love running for you, and they're going to be able to open up opportunities. Those are conversations you can have, and it's why it's key when you're carrier sourcing to have those conversations with either the owner or the ops manager, right? Well, somebody that's looking 6 months to a year ahead, not.
And if our customer's buying freight prepaid, delivered product, then we can actually save them $1 and then make $1 more than we normally would too, as well, where everybody wins. Again, you have another layer of win-win there, where they're getting a deal, because otherwise these guys were going home empty. So they're basically running for fuel. And everybody says say no to cheap freight, but that's perfect freight and good, fast, or cheap. Which one do you want? Well, I'm getting all three, man. I'm telling you, I'm getting all three.
Yeah, and you can do that. Did you, Andy? Did you hear Tony crackling, or was that just me?
I think it's you.
I heard it. It might just be you. I don't know.
Okay, I think it's just me. All right, good. Okay. Sorry, you guys still there? Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think having those higher level conversations, the dispatchers are going to want to have their guys covered here and there, but having the conversations with the owners and the ops managers and the people that are looking to the future, the progress and the actual relationship building, and the benefit of it is huge. And I think that's where you can come up with ideas, because they're saying now, dispatcher might not be able to make a call. You can have a conversation with them and they're going, hey, I could probably pull. What do you got, TJ? I could probably pull 4 or 5 trucks over there for you. But, you may talk to a single dispatcher, you may not be able to do that, right? So, you're having those conversations to build them out. And, you look at, I'll give a shout out, Jason Krieger, Andy, this. I mean, the guy's up in Toledo, he's got that carrier works with that helped him blow that office up on one account. And, I'm up there at his house and he's showing me, oh yeah, this guy sent me this bottle of whiskey. Expensive, right? It's up on a shelf, I mean, probably not as much as the one you bought in Detroit, Andy, but yeah, so, and it's, these relationships he had, though, he was doing the same thing. He'd go golfing with the guy, and they were going to grow together, and they did. And so, those are things that, you want to boost. You want to look for another way to get it done. There you go.
Yeah. What does this do to like your like skewed data? You brought that up in the post. How does that influence skewed data? When you're posting, multiple people posting loads. I mean, we talked about the solution and how to work it together, but what KPIs are you measuring that it's skewing?
It's impacting your buy rates. When you have carrier, reps leapfrogging another rep, by posting it for $5 more or whatever. Instead of having one post, say at 700, you got one at 700, one at 750, one at 775. So you're actually, overpaying, or, rather than getting a carrier on the phone, asking them qualifying questions and then determining, and negotiating a price up from 700 rather than starting at 775 and coming up to 800.
Right. So then, your data at the end of the month, when you go report out, you had, I mean, maybe you ought to track that, like lost opportunity.
It's very difficult to do in a
TJ, mute yourself. What the crap, man?
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. You're in the bathroom?
Oh, am I? Oh, my bad. Hang on.
Light a match, flush, and mute yourself. Good grief.
Okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. So,
for a minute,
I think
commercial. Can you hear me now? But perpetual.
Yeah. God dang it, man. I hate when this happens. I've been on calls all day long. I had no time to prep, and then this happens. But no, I think the skewed data too, Tony, I think from an industry standpoint, not just internally. I mean, internally for sure, right? Where your efficiencies are. But, from an industry standpoint, you're looking at, this amount of loads, there was this many loads posted to the board this month, right? Across DAT, right? There was this many loads posted across DAT, or there's this many loads posted here. And the problem is that there's, people posted it, 8 times, each company posted it 8 times, and, it's not right data. And not only that, but then, do you know how to use your data that you can pull? Like what Andy said is, how often are we posting? What's our post to book rate? I mean, how long are loads being posted for? How long do they are up there before they're covered? I mean, all that data that makes a difference, is, and not only that, but logging, the data when you're logging offers, right? When you're logging inbound, outbound calls, when you're logging all that type of stuff, like it could skew all that stuff, and it's less and less efficient when you're doing that.
Hey, we talked about this before, but you know how like people will throw a load out there. Let's say it's from South Bend to like San Marcos, Texas, and you'll see it on the load board from Chicago to like San Antonio or Chicago to Austin. How do you pair those up and find out that that's the same load? And how do you see through that like camouflage or whatever?
You want to take that, Andy?
Sorry, I was on something else. Ask the question again, Coney. I was trying to add up just the lost productivity with posting multiple loads.
Oh yeah, holy crap!
Not to go back, but just think of each rep. If you have 10 reps that are posting the same load, and they're presented with 25 loads each day, if say it takes a minute, just the lost productivity of that rep going over to the load board, posting it here. If you just figure up 1 minute, so 10 reps, 10 times 20 shipments a day, that's 200. So that's 200 minutes a day divided by 60. So that's 3.3 hours times, let's just say, $20 an hour roughly. That's $66 a day times 280. That's almost $19,000 just in wages that you're spending to have 10 reps post the same load.
Yeah, that's insane. So my question is, as a manager, as a leader in that room, TJ and I had talked about this before, but like if I have a load from South Bend to San Marcos, Texas, and then we'll go find like South Bend is close to Chicago, so we'll find a load posted from Chicago to like Austin, which is close to San Marcos, and it'll be out there. How do you see through that like camouflage to whether or not that's the same load? If you're watching that, you know what I mean? You've seen that trick where they'll post a load with similar big city nearby and then say, oh, well, it's outside of town there a little bit.
Typically that happens for a couple of reasons, but one of them is being, maybe their customer, they're set up as a asset only and they're brokering it and they don't want the customer to know. You'll see that a lot. Sometimes they do that to pull in capacity from another market. You see it a lot with, say northern Wisconsin, kind of more remote. Yeah, Minnesota. They may be having trouble trying to cover the shipment, so they're just trying to pull in any sort of interest. And so
how do you see that though, from your point of view?
I don't like it. I don't like deception.
No, I get that. Like we're all on the same page there. But how do you, as a manager, see that in your people? How do you find them doing that and prevent that? Like how do you see through that? I mean there's 1,000 loads out there.
Yeah. I mean, you literally have to go on it like you're a carrier and search for the lane that you're trying to cover to see who's got it posted for various cities. Because you can tell internally. In DAT, you can see my work group or whatever, and it shows you all the postings of the individuals on your team.
Okay, because I don't have that. I haven't seen any of that. I don't know how to look at it. I don't know what you guys see. So
sure,
that was my
question. Am I still too loud, Tony?
A little bit.
You're good.
Okay. Well, here's the deal, Tony. It's not even about how you do it. It's the fact that you have to do it.
Right.
And I think that's where the inefficiency comes into play. Right. You got somebody like Andy Green or myself or somebody else that's a leader that can be, allocating their, experience or knowledge or help somewhere else. And instead they're babysitting.
Right.
And that's what you run into. And, listen, it's part of it. It's something that a lot of people run into, but, the ability to, the best carrier sales reps that you find, man, they like doing it on their own. It's tough having a big team and having people work together. There's no way around it. Unless the incentive is there, in which they can work together, it's hard, especially when, you're trying to have a large group and you're bringing in people that are inexperienced, people that aren't there yet, maybe young, maybe immature. And you're trying to, wrangle those and you're mixing those in with people that are experienced, that are mature. How do you do that? Freight's easy. People are hard. I think that's, give it back another shout out to Brandon Baskey on that one. But, I think that's a huge
huge part of it. It's just the ability to not only allocate the production and productivity of your employees, but also your management, and then your account managers. If they have to deal with stuff, because if you're in that type of Chicago style brokerage and they got to deal with things and deal with carriers, and some of them are jumping in. Andy, remember, they're jumping into cover loads, right? And now they're maybe missing a spot bid or missing something.
Yeah, but and that's one of the challenges with the Chicago style brokerage is, if I'm a rep and I'm covering maybe Tony's shipment one week, and TJ, you cover his the same lane next week, vice versa. By happenstance, we'll probably find a dedicated carrier, but by having 25 different people cover this lane, the chances of building a relationship with a carrier to haul that repeatedly dwindle. And that's why I like, the cradle to grave model, because if you're having the same lane and fielding phone calls week after week, you're going to know, oh, hey, they've hit me up every week. Let me get in front of them. Let me talk to them. They've got capacity. Let me go see what they, how they can help us. Maybe they can give me more competitive pricing, just by having, and then, that relationship grows organically with that carrier.
Yeah. I think that's, I think that's how I think sometimes you got to work to that. And that's why I was always a big fan of the hot pod, having a group of new and experienced people that come in that could do that, could hammer the phones, right? Yeah. And do that type of thing. But as you develop people out, they make those relationships, let them run with them, right? Yeah. Let them develop them.
Yeah. Look at the Ford lanes that, they come over last minute, need picked up in 2 hours for a flatbed. And, we had a Rolodex of carriers to call that, hey, you want, yep, I'll take 5 of those. Yep, I'll take 5, and so they're dependable. You knew you could count on them if they committed to it anymore. You talk to some of these carriers that just call in. Can't trust them. You don't know them from Adam, and there's a possibility they may not even pick up.
Yeah, I think that's, and it's how people learn. I think there's situations you got to expose them to, but I also think that not only when you empower somebody, to really run with a carrier relationship or run with something like that, people feed off that. They see it. They may be going to lunch with the guy, right? I mean, that's what we were doing. Remember, I used to, I was told from the very beginning. Eric Fortmeyer came to me and said, "Hey, I mean, the way he said it, of course, was a little bit different. We'll go into that, but basically, he said, look who's still here, at 5:30 or 6. Surround yourself with those people. You know what I mean? And that's what I did. Remember when I was first just getting off the ground, I was struggling, and I'd go to, and you and Stu were just killing it, and I'd go to lunch with you guys every day, just tagging along. Remember we had community pitchers, because I didn't even have enough money to throw in. It was like, hey, community pitchers, but we sat and I listened to you guys, right? I listened to what you guys were saying and how you're doing it. And I was like, I want to do that. And when you empower people and you help develop them out and you really take them and grow them and let them run with strategies like that, then people tend to follow, right? Like you said the other day, you made the analogy of school of fish. If it's going to a cancer culture, if it's going to let's find the easy way out or cheat or whatever it is, people will tend to follow that. But if they're seeing people succeed and do things that are working, they'll tend to follow that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dive in on the school of fish thing you had the other day you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's an analogy I've always used, but and that's why it's so important to have the top, communication from the top down all the way through the organization and have that true senior leadership, because you think of any organization as School of Fish, I mean, they're all moving and they should be moving in the same direction. Typically they do, but without that vision being distributed from the top down, it's hard to get everybody moving in the same direction. And it's it just creates extra challenges, more headaches, more costs. And so it's vital to scaling any brokerage that wants to put in solutions in front, be able to put solutions in front of their clients.
Yeah, and I think we so Tony had to pop out. He said, what did he say? He texted me. He said, what did he say? Or did he put it in the chat? He said, had to dip for a second. Longtime family friend just popped in. It's Elkhart, guys. So you guys got to understand, he hates when I say that because it's South Bend. But, Elkhart, the internet's ran by a horse and buggy, on a wheel, basically. And everybody's up there is related. I'm not going to go into the why. I'll pop right in. He may feel.
I think you might be an Elkhart. Well.
No, I think that's a discussion, and I touched on, leadership, right? I touched on revenue, profit, loss. I touched on a couple other things too that are important to that type of thing. Obviously the efficiency, use of resources, and just the overall culture, within that environment. And if you don't have it, it just takes a little bit to spark it, right? It takes one person that you see that you can get rolling and get off the ground. But when you're throwing 15 people, it's why you see a lot of turnover right now. Am I breaking up?
Yeah, you are a little bit. Yeah, I mean this industry is inherently, there's a lot of turnover just because it is grueling, and not let's face it, not everybody can build those relationships with carriers. It's tough. It's a tough industry, and you have to hustle and grind, and it's not unfortunately. You there, Thomas? I don't know if you guys can hear me.
All right. I think we're losing. We lost everybody here.
Nope, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I thought I was going to fix something by unplugging something. That didn't work. But yeah, I think it's important, and I think Andy, I appreciate you coming on and working with us here today, man. I apologize for, mine was not in my control. Tony is like a fart in a skillet, so you got to watch him. But I appreciate you coming on and giving your insights on it, because it's one of those things that is way more important than what you'd think. And I always say, if you've got carriers, you can always find clients or customers. But if you've got customers, you can't always find carriers. So, I mean, having those carriers in line gives you that stability to go find, the right carriers or the right customers, and use that to, prospect and build out. And if you've got the right, but if you've got customers and you got to go find carriers, it's an uphill battle. You're almost spinning your wheels a little bit more. So it's more important now than ever, and you're seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in today's climate.
Yep. So, all right, Andy, thanks for coming on, man. Sorry I wasn't on video today, guys. But thanks for being in the comments today. I'll have everything shaped back up next week. I've been dealing with the calls and you know, looking at some new opportunities job wise. So it's been a busy, but we're gonna get back on it next week. And thanks, Andy, for being on, buddy.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. You guys have a great
All right,
night.
guys. Yep.